Okay, here we are. I'm Derek,
I'm Romaine.
and this is Summer Sessions, episode 7, right?
7, baby.
Uh,
We've been doing a
so
lot of these.
yeah, we really have. How's this going? Is this
Mm,
going well?
I mean, I think it's going all right. I don't know. From what I could tell, it's going all right. Seems like
Mm.
it's going all right. I'm having fun. Are you having fun?
I'm on it.
Then
DNR,
that
I'm
what
on
more
it.
could you want?
Yeah. So glad to have everybody back with us. So the summer sessions, we've got the question of the day, which Maria does every day in our Facebook group, so you can participate there. We have a
Yep.
thriving community in our Facebook group.
Yeah.
So you can check out the question of the day, although I have a twist on the question of the day today. And then a recent story that we didn't cover on our live daily radio show on the DNR Cast app, but we wish we had.
Yep.
And because we do cover a lot of ground on that show. But sometimes we have stories that don't make it. So we'll talk about
Mm-hmm.
that. And then we will have What's Hot About, and this is where we talk about one of the destinations that we are going to on an upcoming cruise or event. That even if you don't join us, we have some hot tips for you of what
Yeah.
you can check out. And then we will round things out with some viewer feedback or questions. And we do, now that we've been doing this for 7 weeks, we do actually have some viewer feedback to get
Great.
into here. I know, I agree. It is great.
I'm excited to see what they have to say. Or
Yeah,
am I?
well, I'm going to assume that what they're saying is, I thought this was supposed to be short. I think last week was our longest one yet. I think it was
Shit.
35 minutes long.
Well, stop talking so long.
You know what? It wasn't me because that was a very show. It was lesbian focused and it was the longest. Maybe there was too much processing. Did you ever think about that?
Oh yes, I was thinking of lesbians. Been thinking about them a lot lately.
I know. I don't want you to
Hello,
be
ladies.
okay. Get your head out of
No?
vagina for one
Okay. All
minute.
right. Sorry. All right. Okay. Got it. Okay. Focus.
Okay. So our question of the day, normally our question of the day comes from Maria, but I saw a question that was posted on Twitter
Mm.
by a past guest on our show, the British gay James Barr from the Gay and Not a Gay
Gay
podcast,
and non-gay. Yeah.
Gay and a Non-Gay. And he had posted this question that his therapist had posed to him. And I
Hmm.
actually thought it was a very interesting question. So maybe
Okay.
Maria will get meta and Maria will post this as the question of the day in our Facebook group
Okay.
after it is here. Because she's always looking for new questions.
Yes.
But because there are 365 days in a year. It's a lot of questions. Okay. So here's
Yeah.
the question from James Barr's British therapist.
I'm listening.
All right, you ready? How did your family make you feel about love when you were growing up?
Ooh, that's a great question.
Right?
Um. Oh. Well, I'm gonna focus on my parents with
Right.
my answer on this.
Yeah.
So I have two very different feelings about it. The first feeling is about my parents' love.
Yeah.
So my parents, I had the quintessential heterosexual parents. They met when they were in their early 20s, both virgins, got married, had 8 children, loved each other until the day my father died. They were such a perfect couple and they always loved each other. Even when they struggled in their marriage with dumb things, they always really loved one another and they showed each other a lot of love.
Were you the dumb thing?
No, shut up, you. But my mom and dad, they always held hands. They loved to dance together. Like you never doubted for a second how much my parents loved each other.
Right.
And they showed it to each other all the time. And my father adored my mother. My mother loved my father. And in a way, it set up unrealistic expectations about love for their children because all of us grew up believing in like true love. And once you meet the one, it never ends. And then we would enter every relationship we entered with this idea that it would never end. It was true love. And then you'd get your heart smashed into a gazillion pieces. And it was frustrating and annoying that we didn't find the same kind of love that my parents did. And every one of their children, I think, suffered from this at some point in their life. Every one of us. Eventually, some of us have found our true loves and have stayed in those relationships. Like my sister Trish has a very, very successful marriage. I'd like to think of my marriage, even though I want to kill my wife all the time, as a very successful marriage. You know, and many of my siblings have been with their partners for very long periods of time, and then sometimes things end it, but usually it's a long period. But the other thing that I find interesting about my father in particular is my father was not great at expressing his love for his children. Could show my mother all the love in the world, but his children, he I think in this way my father failed pretty hard for most of his children, because I don't think that many of my siblings know how much my dad loved them. I saw it for my other siblings because I was young and I watched him and the ways he showed his love, but he didn't say, "I love you, kid," or, "Hey, kid, you're the greatest kid ever. I love you so much," or, "I'm so proud of you." Like, he didn't say those things to his children. Um, so that sometimes made you feel not loved by our father. Me less so because again, I got to see how he did it with the other kids and then I could see how he was showing me his love. But my siblings definitely did not feel my father's love, which is sad to me because he really did love them and it was obvious to me how much he loved them. But my mother, she showed love by always being there. She would come to your concerts, your baseball game, your soccer game, like, and if she couldn't be there, she sent someone in her stead. Like, there was always someone there for you. And I remember the one time when there wasn't someone there for me and how devastating it felt because my mom was out of town and so she couldn't be there and my dad was supposed to go and he failed to show up. And I was devastated because it felt like my mom didn't love me in that moment, but that's because that's how she showed it. And she also would cook things for you and make you fat, and that was how she showed you she loved you.
You
So you could
definitely
tell
didn't
I
pick,
was very loved by my mom.
yeah, but you definitely didn't pick up that trait from your mother.
No. Okay. So that's how I and my siblings, they show love by teasing. We are mean to each other in a teasing kind of way, but the more they tease is how they express their love. So that's kind of fucked up too, but that's how my siblings show love.
It's so funny that you and I, in some ways, Romaine and I have had a lot of sort of like parallels in some ways, but in other ways, we've had very distinct differences. And I think probably one of the most distinct differences between us is the like parent sibling thing that we had growing up. And
Mhm.
in some ways, one of the things that Romaine and I, because I constantly, even though it's been, 21 years, I will still sometimes in having a conversation about Romaine or about my sister Tiffany, mix up the name. I
Oh,
will be
yeah.
talking about Romaine and like to my mom, I'll be talking about you and I will say Tiffany. And sometimes like I'll be talking to my mom about Tiffany and I'll say Romaine. Like because I grew up really the core of my growing up was a like a dual with an A and an E sibling dynamic with my sister Tiffany, that we were very close in age. We were very close. We always did everything together because our parents were divorced. So, like, my sister was interested in gymnastics. So I had to do gymnastics. We only had one mom with one car. This was it. We were
Mhm.
both going to do the same thing. And so we did everything together all the time. And so it has been beneficial that having that dynamic, I have that kind of dynamic with Romaine, is that I feel this same level of we're doing everything together, closeness thing that I have with Tiffany. And it made I think it's a big part of our chemistry and our rapport
I
is
agree.
that we have this kind of sibling thing where it is love and it's bickering, it's all the things that
Oh,
come with
yes.
being in such close contact with one other person that is a real peer, right? In that way. So I had that, but my parents were, so I really had sort of one sibling versus you having seven. And then my parents were divorced and in different states versus your parents who were married forever and in this very loving, committed relationship. And so our upbringing in this way is very different.
Yeah.
And so the love dynamic in a lot of ways is very different because our parents were divorced, their love focus was much more on us necessary than
Than each
and
other.
their romantic partnerships, I think, suffered because they
Mm.
had to make the kids a priority.
That makes sense.
And so it was a very different thing. But I think, we talk a lot about sort of work-life balance, but we don't talk about this kind of love balance, right? Of how hard it is to have a love relationship with your partner and then also have a love relationship with your kids
Yeah.
without one or the other suffering.
Hmm.
And because, because parents go through this with their kids, that one kid will feel like they are getting more love than the other kid because they got whatever, a better Christmas present, or a parent
Sure.
went to their game but didn't go to the other kid's game, whatever, right? Like kids will build up in their heads around those kinds of things too. And I would imagine it's the same thing in a relationship. How do couples with kids struggle to keep their sex life alive because they're too tired from the kids, or the kids need focus, or the kids are banging on the door like,
Banging on the door. It's
yeah,
so fucking annoying. Nothing
right.
worse. Ugh.
So anyway, so I think that is so that I think this is a big part about sort of the family love that we don't really talk about, which is that it's really a no-win situation. You
Right.
can have a very romantic marriage, but then your kids will feel a bit left out of that.
Yeah.
Or you could be divorced and focus a lot on your kids, but then your own dating life is going to be difficult because your kids have an expectation that they will always come first in the love department, right? So it is, so I think that kind of thing is tough. But my dad, when we were very young, he was not, he was really sort of figuring himself out as a parent. And so my mom was a little worried when they first divorced. We lived in different states. My mom was very worried because my dad had more money and he would shower us with gifts that my mother could not possibly afford. And little kids are very enticed by presents
Oh,
and
yes, they
shiny
are.
things. And so my mom was a little worried about that. And we came back from, visiting with my dad. And, my mom asked me, sort of how it was and everything. And I was probably 6 or 7, like pretty young. And she asked me, like, how was it and everything? And I said, well, um, dad, uh, dad takes us places, but you do things with us. And that was even at the age of like 6 or 7, like I could tell
Mm-hmm.
the difference between
Sure.
the quality versus quantity of experiences. But Bjorn got much better. The more kids he had, the longer he was a dad. He got much better at being a dad. And part of it was, his own upbringing. He did not have a great relationship with his father, so he didn't have a good model there. And then his mother believed that women exist to wait hand and foot on men. And so my dad grew up in a house where his mother never insisted he do anything, that she did
Ugh.
everything for him. And so he just grew up in this world where, like, oh, well, women just do everything for me. Like, I don't have to know how to do anything.
Nope.
And so I think that made his marriages difficult for sure. But it
Yeah.
also, as a parent, what is his role? Like he didn't know what his role was because he wasn't cooking, he wasn't cleaning, he
Right.
wasn't taking kids places. Like that's what a woman is there to do all of those things. And
Mm-hmm.
so he did not, I think he really struggled at the beginning to figure out what his role was. But both of my parents were such emotional champions of us, and in some ways I think it helped to take my natural instinct and turn me into a much more of a narcissistic windbag than I could have been otherwise, because I grew up in this world where my parents thought everything I did was great. And a lot of what I have done in my
Explains
life
so much.
has been great, but the reality is it came from this place of, oh, my parents just thought everything was terrific, like all the time. And I guess that could have set me up if I had had a less successful life. That probably would have set me up for misery.
Right.
But my life has turned out really well. So I guess my parents were onto something, but it has not, it has made it more difficult for me to face, what little adversity I've had in life. It has made it difficult for me to face. But the one last thing I will say about this is because both of my parents were divorced and struggled to have like healthy relationships themselves. I didn't grow up like you did with this expectation of soulmate true love.
Right.
And so I really did not expect that something like that could happen for me in my life. And
Wow.
it's a big part of why I really was such a mess around my relationship with Jonathan, because but he also was a mess on his own. But I did not have any facility for dealing with the feelings and emotions around feeling that a person is your soulmate, the
Right.
one, that connection. And so I was not able, I was like, I don't know what to do with this. And the fact that things were very messy between us also only made it worse. And he also, I don't think, had any kind of facility to deal with that. And gay men, uh, there's not a lot of like relationship patterning that we can pattern, you know,
Right.
like good relationships on, because a lot of people, like, you're closeted in high school, so you don't like go through the dating thing, and then it makes it just, and then there's the whole like, well, how do we navigate two people of the same gender? What are our roles in day-to-day existence? That's another
Right.
challenge for gay and lesbian couples. And so I think there are gay couples that can make it last a really long time, but sometimes it can be a struggle if you don't have a natural affinity for it. If you didn't have a good pattern of it growing up, there could be hurdles, not that they can't
Sure.
be overcome. And there are just some people, because we both met them, there are some people that you meet who are never single because they are always in a relationship,
Yep.
because either they're like a top tier choice, people always want to be in a relationship with them, or they just have a natural like relationship affinity to them. Some people are just always going to be in a relationship, even if
Yeah.
they're serially in relationships, but they are always going to be in a relationship. So I think there's just too many moving parts here, to like have a true recipe for success. But if there is one thing that I would say that we should have more of a conversation about, it is, what is your love balance? How do you balance your passions in life, for your passion for a person,
Right.
for your family, like make time for family and friends, like how do you balance out that in a way where you're not suffering in one area? So we should have more of that conversation. So
Sure.
that's what I'm saying to
A
James
big
Barr's
question.
therapist.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is your love balance? That's the question you should be asking yourself. Are you getting enough love? Are you giving enough love? Are you spreading the love that you have around evenly enough in the areas of your life where they need it?
My answer is no.
No. That's a little
I
bit,
don't think
and
it's
then
a
there are
hard
people out
question.
there. Look,
Yeah.
and then there are people who are just
Ooh,
love
deep thoughts,
vampires.
people. You didn't know Derek and Romaine could go so deep, did you?
A
And
little
not in
bit
a
deep.
sex way.
But then again, this is why these go on too long. Oh,
Yep,
Jesus.
because Derek gets
Okay. Let us
short
move
story long.
on to
Okay.
a recent story we didn't cover on the show, but we wish you had.
All right. Well, the Olympics were taking place, Derek.
Well,
And
they're
so
over now.
well, yes, but I watched the Olympics. I was really into the Olympics this year. I very much have enjoyed it. So I pulled an Olympic story that
Okay.
we didn't get to talk about on the air, but I kind of love it. So you know that some of the Olympic events didn't happen in Paris.
Yes.
Specifically like the surfing events and things like that that required the ocean and waves and important stuff like that. Now, those happened in Tahiti,
Yes. Gorgeous.
which is about 10,000 miles away from Paris.
Yes.
Well, I have to say, this story made me giggle because when the Olympics are happening, they all the attention is on the athletes, right? And what they're doing and how they're competing. Well, this was during the women's shortboard semifinal heats.
The very semifinal.
Yeah. And something crazy happened. Now, on our regular Derek and Romaine show, which you can subscribe to at dnrstudios.com with your DNR Plus subscription.
Great plug.
Thank you. We would play a Critter Chat sounder for this kind of story, but we don't have it here. So, right, Critter Chat. Okay, bacon is yummy. All right. So here's what happened. So these women's shortboard semifinals are happening.
Yeah.
The women are out on their shortboards in the ocean getting ready to compete. And all of a sudden, and only this is like this crazy shit. A whale reached the surface of the water, came crashing down, and then proceeded to put on a whale show like you were at SeaWorld every couple of minutes. Splashing, just playing around. I guess the whale saw all the ladies in the water doing their surfing thing and it wanted to participate in the fun. They thought we were all, hey, we're having a play date. And so the whale just hung out, splashing around, putting on a show. And of course, the women who are supposed to be competing, they're like, how do we compete with this? There's a whale putting on a show. We're supposed to be the ones putting on the show. But no, the whale decided to do that. But for the most part, the surfers were able to continue their competition, even though the whale was being a whale, splashing around and making a fuss. And I just thought, what a wonderful story. Like, I can't even imagine. I'm about to compete in the semifinals. It's like a big deal. And then a fucking whale comes and steals all my thunder. I wonder what the judges gave that whale for its maneuvers in the water.
I want you to know my whole life is thunder. Thank you. I think the Russian judge gave it a low score. I don't know. That is, that's part of life, and also, the more that we take a look at nature around us, we realize that there's not nearly as much difference between us and animals in the wild as the Bible would have implied.
Right.
And, they're, in some ways, like, these wild animals have it good. They spend a lot of time playing at play. Yeah. And we didn't really think about that a lot with whales because, we don't really think about sort of animals and their play. But the reality is they do a lot of play.
Oh, yeah. No, animals play all the time.
In between eating and sleeping and pooping.
I watch the squirrels run around my yard playing with each other.
Yeah, because they don't have jobs.
No, they don't have any worries other than the fox.
Yeah, so they can play and have a good time. Yeah, their only worry is predators, but otherwise they have time to play.
Yeah.
So I think it's wonderful, and maybe now we can see that animals are trying to play with us, because I do think that wild animals have a curiosity about us.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Like, they don't understand us, especially if they don't, because they, we are kind of predators. We kind of give off a predator vibe for sure. We kind of dominate our physical spaces. But at the same time, because I deal with this all the time in my house with like the deer and the rabbits and whatever else, is like they know I'm a danger because obviously humans are dangerous to them.
Oh, yeah.
But on a one-on-one basis, we're not really an immediate danger. And so I think they have a lot of curiosity about what the hell we're doing. Like, what are we doing? Because we don't act like they do. Like, we're not foraging for food necessarily. We're not laying on the lawn. Like, we don't do the things that they do.
Maybe you should do that. Maybe you should go out to your yard, forage for food, and lay around in the lawn.
Great. Then I can be covered in deer ticks and poison ivy. That sounds wonderful, Romaine.
It does.
My time. Yeah. Okay. Here is my recent story. Since you had a sporty one, I also will have a sporty one.
Okay.
This is about a sport in Finland.
Okay.
So apparently the hot sport in Finland.
If you say hobby horse, I'm going to pass out.
It is hobby horsing.
And now I actually know about this because down at the farm, the barn girls, they have hobby horses. and they go out to the arena
And
and
hobby horse.
they hobby horse. And I think it is the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. So tell everyone what it is, Derek, for people who may not know what a hobby horse
How do
is.
people not know what a hobby horse is? It's a stick with a horse head on the end of it, and you climb on top of it and you hop around like you pretend you're on a horse. And it is a game for, I'm going to say, 4-year-olds.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. 4-year-olds.
yeah, it's not because over time you can have a more sophisticated, once you're big enough to go
Over
on roller
time,
coasters,
you
whatever.
could ride on a real horse.
Yeah, yeah, you can get on a real horse or you can go on a roller coaster. Like you can have other thrills. You don't need such
Yeah,
cheap thrills. But yeah, apparently in Finland, there's a lot of adult hobby horsing, and they would like to
adults.
turn it into a global sport. I assume with an eye toward having it be in the Olympics. They have break dancing and synchronized swimming eventually made it into official Olympic sports. And it is not that far off that you could see a future Olympic hobby horsing
Derek,
competition.
no.
What is your
No.
why you gotta hate
You
on
are telling me that there are grown ass adult people who say, I'm going to stick this horse head on a stick through my legs and I'm going to have a competition of who can ride a fake horse the best.
Yeah.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard of.
Okay, well, you've obviously never seen the gymnastics floor exercises with the fucking ribbon on a
Oh,
stick.
no, I haven't. I think that's also fucking stupid,
And
but I'm
yet,
trying not to be judgy.
gold medal ribbon swirling.
I don't even understand that.
I know, I know.
I, I, that, see, I glitched out. That's how much I don't understand
Okay,
it.
man, you probably
Okay.
glitched out for a good reason. Okay, we're already way over time. So let's get
Because you
to
talk too
what.
much.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the love thing it
Yeah.
got us going. Okay. Our what's hot about is not a city, but a place. It is Disneyland. Is
Oh, I
our
love
what's hot about. So
Disneyland. Okay.
obviously there are many Disney parks around the world.
Yes.
But we are going to talk about the OG, the original Disneyland park, which Romaine had never been to, and I told her she would love it. And then we went, and you what?
I loved it.
Loved it.
And now I'm
Okay.
obsessed.
All right. And so recently, one of our listeners, Mary, she had, I think she grew up in Florida, but she's lived in Florida. She's gone to Walt Disney World her whole life. She was finally going to Disneyland. And she was like, hey, we're going to be at Disneyland, whatever. Do you have any tips? And of course, because I grew up on Disneyland, I was like, I have 10,001 tips. And she really appreciated the tips. So I'm glad to share them here with you. So, Romaine, what is hot about Disneyland for you?
I mean, there's a lot of things that I love about Disneyland. I love how compact it is and how you can walk across the whole park pretty quickly, unlike Disney World where it takes you freaking forever. So for Disneyland, I feel like Disneyland is a very magical park. I think there are some really special things that happen only at Disneyland that I think you kind of have to experience for yourself and see it. I love Disneyland Space Mountain. I really love though, because we tend to go in the fall, like late fall. And I love when they do the overlay on the Haunted Mansion with the Nightmare Before Christmas. I think that is so fun. I'm a big Nightmare Before Christmas fan. So I love seeing how they change the Haunted Mansion around and make it themed to the Nightmare Before Christmas. I just love everything about that. Because I think it's super cool, super special. And I really, really enjoy that. And then I would also say, I really love the California Adventure Park. And what I love there's something I love to do there that is weird, but I really, really love it. So there's like this weird little alleyway off the main circle that comes in. If you go off to the left, and there's this store where you can go and you can buy like fine art and things like that. And then behind it, there's like this room it's a little hidden, honestly. You kind of have to look for it, but you can go and learn how to draw animated characters. Like they like have like a 20 little minute thing that you go inside in some nice air conditioning. You sit down and with a pencil with no eraser, you draw a character. They teach you how to do it. And it's one of my favorite things to do at Disneyland, especially about like 2 or 3 in the afternoon when you're hot and you're tired and you want to die and you just need to cool down for a bit. It's just a great little hidden gem that I love. And so I tend to do it a lot because I really, really love it. And I've learned how to draw many characters this way. And then the only other thing that I'm going to say that is really special to Disneyland, less so at Disney World, churros. Need I say more?
The churros are great. There's always a churro stand.
Like every 5 feet.
Yeah, but my favorite churro stand is the one that is next to the Matterhorn.
Mm-hmm.
Because you get off the Matterhorn and the churros are right there. Sometimes when you're in line, you like smell the churros, and then it's like, okay, as soon as we get off this ride,
Yeah.
you go there. So the Matterhorn is Bob Gurr, the noted homosexual
Yep.
Imagineer, created the Matterhorn, the very first steel tubular roller coaster in the United States or world, and it's a rickety ass ride.
So
But
rickety. I wish they would redo
Oh,
it.
it's so fun. But I love the Matterhorn because they wear lederhosen and they say Auf Wiedersehen. And if you've heard No Doubt and their Tragic Kingdom album, they sample the original audio at the end of the ride. Remain seated, please. It is my favorite part of the ride. It has all of the sort of classic Disney kitschiness to
Oh
it.
yeah, totally.
And so I love the things that really feel authentically Walt Disney, the parts of the park that Walt was there for and supervised. And you really feel the sort of the
You
excitement
do.
of the Imagineers to inventing new things that nobody had done before.
Yeah.
So I love the Matterhorn for that. The Tiki Room and its cheesiness, but also for the Dole Whip, which is like the best thing about the Tiki Room.
Dole Whip is yummy.
You don't have to go into the Tiki Room to get the Dole Whip. They also sell it outside. But a lot of my recommendations are about food. So there is a corn dog cart at the end of Main Street. Do not
Very
sleep on
popular.
that corn dog
Yeah.
cart. It is great. You'll see a long line, but you can also order the corn dog through the app now. So, but the fact that it has a long line for a reason. The corn dogs are great. Get the corn dogs. I also, as Romaine mentioned, the churros outside of the Matterhorn are great. So definitely, don't miss out on that
Get a
for
churro.
sure. Yeah, because those are the good things about Disneyland, and yeah, I think those are my main things. If you're
Okay.
going to, you don't have to stay on property because Disneyland is so small. You can really stay at an area hotel and it's really
Yeah.
close by. But if you do stay on property, the only hotel to stay at is the Grand Californian. It is the closest to the parks. It is the best. It tends to be the cheapest, and I have no idea why, because it is the best of the hotels. And it has its own separate gate into California Adventure. So it's
Which is
really
nice.
convenient. At the end of the day, when you're wrapping up at California Adventure, you can pop right into your private gate. Oh, it's
It's
beautiful.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So that is our What's Hot at
Yeah,
Disneyland.
I like it.
And we'll be going back to Disneyland again one of these days.
Soon.
Um, but yeah, so that's our recommendations there for What's Hot at Disneyland. And then
Yay.
finally, in our viewer feedback section, JD says, always good to watch these. Love seeing you two. Thank you, JD.
Oh, thanks. That's
Yep,
very sweet.
agree. Also, JD is sharing our summer sessions in social media when new episodes come up. And so I would like to encourage you to be like JD,
Yeah.
like this episode, post a comment below, subscribe to our channel, turn on your notifications so you get notified when there are new episodes of our summer sessions. And of course, subscribe to our show on dnrstudios.com. Use the discount code 2024, and you can try our show for free and download the DNR Cast app
Yep.
for iPhone or Android right there in the store for free, and check out our show. You'll love it. Just like
Yeah.
we love you.
Love
That's
you.
that's our love balance, Romaine. We love each other and we
Yeah.
love our listeners almost
Yeah.
equally.
Almost.
Almost.
Mostly.
Most. Mostly.